A teacher laughs at a black girl who says her mother works at NASA until she walks into the classroom. The classroom went silent, as if the air had been sucked out of it. Mariana Alice stood motionless before the 30 pairs of eyes staring at her. Her small 12-year-old body trembled as tears threatened to fall. "Liar," someone whispered from the back of the room. The voice of Mrs. Diana Porter, her science teacher, still echoed in everyone's ears. "Let's be realistic, Mariana. Black women don't get assigned NASA missions. That's a very ambitious story, don't you think?" And then came the laugh. Not a nervous laugh, but a condescending one, sharp as a knife that cut through Mariana. What the teacher didn't know was that, at that exact moment, Dr. Jade Alice, an astrophysicist and project manager for NASA's upcoming Artemis lunar mission, was on her way to the school to give a surprise talk. Mariana had arrived at Riverside School just 3 weeks earlier, after her family moved to Mead View, following her mother's transfer to NASA's Glenn Resart Center in Atlanta. Everyone in the scientific field knew Dr. Jade Alice, one of the world's leading experts in orbital physics. But in that small town, where people barely looked up at the sky, Mariana was just the new girl, dark-skinned, with colorful braids and NASA t-shirts, talking about constellations during lunch. That morning, the janitor asked everyone to hand in their assignments about their parents' professions in preparation for career day. One by one, the students stood up. "My dad is an accountant. My mom is a nurse. My dad works at the local bank." When it was Mariana's turn, she stood confidently, holding a folder full of photos, her mother in space training gear, alongside astronauts and a model of the lunar module. "My mother is Dr. Jade Alice," she said firmly, despite her nervousness. "She is an astrophysicist and was recently named project manager for NASA's Artemis mission. She's developing propulsion systems that will take humans to the moon, and then to Mars." Mariana smiled and turned to the first photo. "Here she is with the engineering team." "All right, Mariana," interrupted Mrs. Diana Porter, raising a hand with a cynical smile on her face. "I appreciate your creativity, but this is an exercise about real professions, not science fiction." There were snickers, followed by a comment that froze Mariana's blood. "I'm sure your mother has a respectable job," Diana continued. "But let's be honest, black women don't get assigned NASA missions. It's a lovely story, but a little too ambitious, don't you think?" Laughter spread across the room. "Now why don't you tell us what your mother really does?" Standing before everyone, Mariana clutched the folder to her chest. She didn't want to cry. Her mother always said, "You can cry, but never because of what others think of you." "I'm not lying," she said in a near whisper. "My mother works at NASA." Diana Porter sighed dramatically. "Mariana, please sit down. We're not wasting any more class time on this." Mariana walked back to her seat, her cheeks burning with shame. Every glance, every whisper felt like a blow. But what no one, not even Mariana, knew was that weeks earlier, Principal Adriel Wilson had invited Dr. Jade to give a surprise lecture that very day. As Mariana tried to hide her shame and swallow her tears, the teacher called the next student. But before anyone could stand up, the classroom door slowly opened. A woman of medium height walked in, wearing a navy blazer over a NASA t-shirt. Her hair was elegantly braided, and in one hand she carried a silver case. Behind her entered Principal Adriel Wilson, smiling. "Sorry to interrupt, Mrs. Porter," the principal said gently. "Our special guest arrived a bit early for her talk. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Jade Alice, NASA astrophysicist and project manager of the Artemis mission." The silence in the room was immediate. Diana Porter's expression was a mix of shock and panic. Her eyes flicked from Mariana to Jade, struggling to process what she was seeing. Mariana, still in her seat, widened her eyes. Her mother was there, and not only that, she was elegant, poised, commanding. A true NASA scientist. Dr. Jade, meanwhile, immediately noticed her daughter's expression. Teary-eyed, flushed cheeks, held breath. Something was wrong. She knew that look. It was the same one she had worn so many times in her own life. But maintaining her professional stance, Jade stood at the center of the room. "It's a pleasure to be here with you," she said with a controlled smile. "I'm excited to talk about my career at NASA and the future of space exploration." She looked at Mariana as if saying with her eyes, "I'm here now. Would anyone like to ask a question about our work on, the Artemis mission?" The silence was thick. Some students avoided her gaze. Others looked discreetly at Mariana. Mrs. Porter adjusted her glasses and spoke in a tense voice. What a wonderful surprise, Dr. Jade. We were, just talking about professions, and Mariana was, telling us about you. Interesting, said Jade, turning to the class. And what exactly did Mariana say about me, Mrs. Porter went silent. A red-haired boy who had been quiet until then hesitantly raised his hand. The teacher said she was making it up, that black women don't get missions at NASA. The silence that followed was as absolute as the vacuum of space. Jade kept a neutral expression, but inside her heart pounded. I see, she said calmly. Then today we'll have 2 lessons, one on science and one on respect. She opened her case, taking out spacecraft models and a tablet. Hey, just a second. If this story has touched your heart so far, imagine what's still to come. If you believe everyone deserves to be heard, and that no one should be limited by prejudice, subscribe to the channel now. Here we share real, inspiring stories that show how courage can change destinies and silence the doubters. Let's spread these messages together. Now back to the story, because the most powerful moment is yet to come. Principal Adriel, if I may, I'd like Mariana to help me with the presentation. Of course, the principal replied, casting a stern look at Mrs. Porter. Mariana slowly stood up. She was still trembling, but something inside her was starting to shine. Quiet pride, a strength born of truth. 2 students whispered something without lifting their eyes. Jade interrupted. Gentlemen, at NASA we learn that whispering can be dangerous. In space modules, it can cause fatal distractions. Here, it only distracts from learning. If you have something to say, speak up. The students froze. Respect now filled the room. Jade projected images on the screen. In the first, she stood with the NASA administrator and 4 scientists in front of the Artemis propulsion system model. This photo was taken 3 months ago when I was appointed Director of Propulsion Systems for the Artemis mission, a position that, according to some, I could never hold. Diana Porter seemed to shrink, as if wishing to disappear into a black hole. At NASA, Jade continued, we don't judge people by the color of their skin, their gender, or their age, but by their ability to solve problems. She looked at her daughter. Mariana, for example, understands orbital physics concepts that many adults find difficult. Mariana spoke with more confidence now, explaining the models as the room filled with curious, attentive eyes. For 20 minutes, mother and daughter led a perfect choreography of knowledge. The tension dissolved, like fog under the sun. Then Jade turned, facing the teacher. Mrs. Porter, do you believe in teaching science based on facts? Yes, said the teacher with difficulty. Excellent, because as scientists, we must learn to distinguish between skepticism and prejudice. The first drives us to investigate, the second, to ignore. And in science, that's a grave mistake. Principal Adriel stepped forward. I agree, and I think we'll have much to discuss after class. Mrs. Porter turned to Jade and Mariana. Thank you for the excellent presentation. We all learned something valuable today, and not just about rockets. In the days following Jade's presentation, Riverside School was swept into a whirlwind. The story of what had happened spread through Meadview like a comet across the sky. Some parents defended Mrs. Porter, saying she was merely expressing skepticism. Others were outraged by the way Mariana had been treated. At the center of this storm, Mariana tried to stay focused despite the whispers in the hallways. On Friday, her mother received an email from Principal Adriel. The school would organize a last-minute science fair, driven by the students' newfound interest in astronomy. Adriel invited Jade to be a judge at the event, a subtle attempt to repair the damage caused. I think you should present a project on ion propulsion, Mariana suggested at dinner, her eyes shining. The one you developed for Phase TR of the mission. Jade raised an eyebrow, surprised. That's an advanced-level experimental technology. Are you sure? I am. I don't want them to think I'm just the daughter of a scientist. I want them to see that I understand what you do. Over the weekend, the small apartment where they lived became a true laboratory. Mariana studied relentlessly, with diagrams, calculations, and components occupying the entire kitchen table. Jade watched with pride and a hint of concern, but did not interfere. She wanted her daughter to take the lead. On Tuesday, the eve of the fair, Mariana conducted the final test of her ion propulsion model. A small turbine spun gently, emitting a subtle glow. It works, she shouted, hugging her mother tightly. On the morning of the event, the school gymnasium was filled with baking soda volcanoes, foam solar systems, and colorful posters about photosynthesis. But in a discreet corner of the room stood Mariana's project, minimalist, technical, and absolutely professional. Zoe, a classmate who had become a strong ally, helped with the final adjustments. Nervous? A little. But I think today will be different. Diana Porter walked between the projects, clipboard in hand and a neutral expression on her face. When she stopped in front of Mariana's display, she hesitated slightly. Ion propulsion? She asked. Specifically, the system NASA is developing for Phase TR of the Artemis mission. Mariana replied firmly. Seems advanced, Diana said curtly. Let's see it work. Without waiting for a response, Mariana activated the model. It spun and emitted the same soft glow. Nearby students began to gather. Mariana explained, "This type of propulsion uses electricity to accelerate ions to extremely high speeds. It's much more efficient than traditional chemical propellants for long-distance missions." More students joined the crowd. Even teachers from other classes came closer. Mariana answered questions confidently, growing more assured with each response. Jade and Principal Adriel watched from a distance. Adriel smiled. "Your daughter is extraordinary. I think we're witnessing the birth of a scientist." The moment of decision arrived. The judges convened and the deliberation was quick. Adriel stepped onto the small stage. In third place, Mei Lin, with her project on solar energy. Applause. In second place, Zoe Washington, with her research on habitable exoplanets. More applause. And in first place, he paused dramatically, Mariana Alice, with her functional ion propulsion model for space travel. The gymnasium erupted in applause. Mariana stood frozen for a moment, then walked confidently to the stage. She received not only a certificate, but also a scholarship to a summer program at the local observatory. "Mariana, would you like to say a few words?" the principal asked, extending the microphone. She hesitated for a second, then took the mic with both hands. Her eyes scanned the crowd until they found Mrs. Porter standing at the back. "This project isn't just about rockets," she began. "It's about believing in yourself even when no one else does. It's about moving forward, even when people say you don't belong." She paused and took a deep breath. "I learned science from my mom, but in the last few days, I've learned something even more important. No one can decide my limits for me." Jade cried silently. The gym gave her a standing ovation. Adriel whispered, "Today, we all learned a lesson." After the ceremony, Mariana was surrounded by curious classmates asking to see her project again. Meanwhile, in a quieter corner of the gymnasium, Mrs. Diana Porter approached Jade, visibly shaken. "Dr. Alice," she said in a low voice, "I'd like to apologize, not just for what I said about you, but especially for what I did to Mariana. I now realize I made assumptions I never questioned, and I hurt your daughter in a way that made me see how wounded I've been myself." Jade looked deeply into the teacher's eyes. Behind the rigidity, she saw something familiar, the exhaustion of someone who had fought silent battles all her life. "You know, Mrs. Porter," Jade replied calmly, "in science, we learned that a well-understood mistake is worth almost as much as a success. What truly matters is what we do after it." At the center of the gym, Mariana continued explaining her project. But now her face glowed not just from the bluish light of the propulsion model. There was something else, something internal, a kind of self-awareness, a sense of power. 3 months later, Riverside School was unrecognizable. In the main hallway, a display case showcased Mariana's award-winning project alongside photos from the ceremony. Next to it, a sign announced, "Astronomy Club, 32 active members." Interest in the cosmos had exploded among the students. On a sunny afternoon, Mariana walked beside Zoe and 2 new classmates, discussing ideas for the upcoming regional science fair. "What if we added a Martian atmosphere simulation?" suggested Jack, a boy who, months earlier, barely spoke to Mariana. "That could work," she replied, smiling. Turning a corner, Mariana saw Mrs. Porter organizing books in a cabinet. For a moment, they exchanged glances. Silence lingered. Then, to Mariana's surprise, the teacher smiled. A genuine smile. "I'm looking forward to seeing your project at the regional fair," said Diana. "I heard you're working with hydroponics in a Martian environment?" "Yes," Mariana replied, surprised. "A system with simulated soil and a closed nutrient cycle. If you need help with chemical analysis of the materials, my door is open." Zoe nudged Mariana. What did you think of that? Mom always says some people just need time to recalibrate their orbits, she replied with a half smile. That same night, the Meadview Observatory was packed, families with telescopes, teachers, students. At the center of the event stood Jade, wearing her NASA uniform, ready to speak. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first annual Star Observation Night in Mead, she announced to enthusiastic applause. When I arrived with my daughter, I never imagined we'd be here today. It's with great joy that I announce a new initiative, the Rising Stars Program, a partnership between NASA and Riverside School that will provide mentorship and opportunities for youth in STEM, with a special focus on underrepresented groups. Mariana joined her mother on stage. This program was born from a simple idea, she said firmly. No dream is too big, and no child should be discouraged from reaching for the stars, no matter their appearance or background. After the presentation, Diana Porter approached again, now with an emotional look. Dr. Else, thank you for including me. I'm glad I came. Jade responded with a gentle smile. The teacher hesitated, then turned to Mariana. My grandmother wanted to be an astronomer in the 1950s, but back then, women, especially black women, had no place. She would have loved to see this. She would have loved to see you. Mariana smiled, touched. She still can, through you. That night, sitting on a small hill, Mariana and Jade watched the sky. Zoe soon joined them, followed by other children, all curious, eyes turned toward the infinite. A little girl, about 8 years old, approached. How did you know you'd make it? Weren't you scared when they laughed at you? I was, Mariana replied. Very scared, but I learned something important. The universe doesn't care about the color of your skin or what others think of you. The laws of physics work the same for everyone. What matters is what you do with what you know. At the end of the semester, Mrs. Porter handed an envelope to Mariana with a single instruction. Open when you're home alone. Mariana opened it. Inside was an old photo of a young black woman with a telescope and a letter. Dear Mariana, this is my grandmother, Eleonora. Her dream was to map the stars. Thanks to you, I've learned that it's never too late to look up. Thank you for showing me that true knowledge begins when we challenge our own limitations. Mariana smiled, realizing that the pain of that day in the classroom had transformed into something greater, the certainty of her worth, and the awareness that sometimes other people's prejudices are nothing more than stardust, and that the light of true stars can never be dimmed. If this story moved you, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments which part impacted you the most. After all, as Mariana learned, the greatest courage lies in standing up for your truth, especially when the world tries to silence you.